This is why you should always be honest. Once there was a bus driver who made a horrible mistake, but the way he tried to fix it was even worse. So this bus driver worked for the local county hospital. One day he was driving 20 patients to the insane asylum when he got thirsty. So he decided to stop the bus on the side of the road to get a drink. But when he got back on the bus, he realized what a terrible mistake he made. The entire bus was empty. All the patients had escaped and was nowhere to be found. Worried he would lose his job, the driver came up with an idea. Something he would come to regret years later. He drove the empty bus to a nearby bus stop and waited for people to get on the bus. Then he drove them all to the insane asylum and said that they were especially delusional and needed to be restrained. Many months later, the staff finally realized what was going on, but by then it was too late. A lot of those people were actually pushed to insanity, and to this day, the real patients still have not been found. If you like taking photos, don't do what he did. Once 4 boys drove to a tunnel to take photos at night, but this quickly took a horrifying turn. Once they arrived, they got out of the car and took a self-timer photo by the tunnel. But when they got back in the car, the boy sitting in the driver's seat didn't turn on the ignition. Instead, he asked, "You guys would never leave me, right?" The other boys were confused. "Of course not. Why would you ask that?" Then he said, "Look at my feet." The other boys started screaming. Coming through the floor of the car were 2 white hands with long fingernails, and it was grabbing the ankles of their friend in the driver's seat. The 3 boys opened the car doors and ran. After a while, they walked back up to the car to check on their friend. That's when they saw the headlights were still on, but the car was completely empty. The boy in the driver's seat was never seen again. If a package arrives at your door, don't do what she did. Once there was a girl named Gabby who received a mysterious package in the mail. There was no name and address written on it, so she had no idea where it came from. She opened it anyways, and inside was a DVD with no title or cover on the case. Thinking it might be one of her friends pranking her, she called them over to her house. Her friends arrived and none of them knew what the mysterious package was, so they decided to watch the DVD together. Immediately, they were surprised at what they saw on the TV screen. There was a clown standing in a normal-looking bedroom. The clown was holding 2 red balloons and stared deeply into the camera. Then slowly his expression turned into a menacing grin. Gabby's friends thought it was funny and began laughing, but Gabby just sat there with a terrified look in her eyes. Eventually her friends asked, "What's wrong? Isn't this hilarious?" Gabby replied with her voice shaking, "That's my bedroom." If someone knocks on your door this Christmas, don't do what she did. Once there was a girl named Evelyn who was waiting for her mom to come home for Christmas. She was decorating their tree when she heard a knock at the door, but she could have never expected the horrifying things this would lead to. She asked, "Who is it?" but it was a man's voice that answered, "I'm cold and tired, let me in." But Evelyn looked through the keyhole and saw that it was a stranger wearing a Santa Claus costume. Feeling uneasy, Evelyn said, "My mom's not here, please leave." But this man began banging at the door. "That's what I was hoping you'd say. Evelyn, I'm looking for you. Open the door." At this point, Evelyn was terrified. Who is this man and how does he know her name? Then she saw him reach inside his red coat and pull out something shiny and try to jam it through the door. All of a sudden, the knocking stopped. When her mother came home, she saw that their door had been pried open. She rushed in to look for Evelyn, only to scream in horror. Perched on top of their Christmas tree was Evelyn's head. This is why you should always lock your bathroom door. It was the first night Marnie and her family moved into their new house. Before going to bed, she wanted to take a relaxing bath, but she could have never expected the terrifying things this would lead to. The rest of her family was in the living room watching TV, and a few moments later, Marnie ran out of the bathroom screaming. Turns out when Marnie was sitting in the bathtub, she heard what sounded like heavy breathing. Assuming it must be the wind, she tried to ignore it, but then she noticed something strange about her hair. Her hair was much longer than usual, and it was much darker than her hair used to be too. Marnie jumped out of the bathtub, but as she got up, the back of her head seemed to hit someone else's nose. Since then, she's been too terrified to be in the bathroom alone, convinced that someone else was in the bathtub with her that night. Use the public bathroom, don't do what she did. Once there was a girl named Angelica and she was hiding a terrifying secret. One day after using a public bathroom, she went to wash her hands. That's when someone came out of the stalls and tripped and fell in the middle of the floor. They quickly got up and said, "Wow, I'm so clumsy. I can't believe I tripped over nothing." But then something strange happened. The next person who came out of the stalls also tripped over at that exact same place even when there was nothing there. This person got up and said, "I could have sworn I tripped over something. Maybe it was just my imagination." Angelica replied, "Maybe, I'm just glad you're okay. Be careful next time." Because she couldn't tell any of them the truth. She couldn't tell them that she was the only one who could see it. A woman's body lying in the middle of the floor that everyone tripped over. This is why you should always pay attention to details. Once there was a boy named Jonah who was walking through a park to go home after school, but he never expected what he'd see there. He saw a girl sitting alone by a swing in the park, and this made him curious. So he decided to approach her, and from that time on, they talked every night before Jonah went home. Later, he told his friends about this girl, only for his friends to say never go to that park again. They told him years ago at that park, a teacher's daughter passed away in a horrible car accident. When she was found, she was missing a finger. Jonah didn't believe them, so the next time he saw the girl, he asked to see her hands. When she finally showed him, he saw her missing finger. Jonah ran as fast as he could. Even after he went back to the park, he never saw the girl again. this happens to you, do not open the door. Once there was a girl named Donna who lived with her father, but he went out of town for a business trip, so Donna was left alone in the house. Then one night she heard the doorbell ring. She went downstairs and was about to open the door, assuming it was her father, but she stopped. Something wasn't right. She looked through the peephole and saw her father staring back at her. His eyes were wide open and he looked terrified, but the doorbell kept ringing. Donna said, "Dad, did you forget your keys?" No answer. "Dad, say something." Still no answer. Donna said, "I'm not opening the door until you say something." Eventually the ringing stopped and Donna fell asleep. The next morning she looked through the peephole again. Her father was still there as if he hadn't moved all night. She finally opened the door and what she saw horrified her. Her father's head was hanging from above the door, and there was a note attached to the doorbell with only 2 words: "Clever."